Hello, my name is Tudor-Williams. I'm from Chandlery here in MDL Marina, Shamrock Quay, and today we're going to talk about buoyancy aids and life jackets. So if we start with buoyancy aids are primarily there as just that, to give you some buoyancy aid or buoyancy whilst you're in the water. They come in a few different types, but they're all built to the same sort of standard, having a buoyancy of around 50 newtons. So what you're trying to do really is find the fit that works for you for the activity that you're doing. This is a front clip buoyancy aid by ourselves at Windward. Opens up like a waistcoat, adjustable on the shoulders, adjustable around the waist. Really good for a range of activities, be that dinghy sailing, kayaking or paddleboarding. As I say, it's worth trying them on to find what works for you in the position of the water sport of your choice. If we put that one away, we have one here from Crusader. Now, the buoyancy here is much higher up on the chest and on the back, so again, if you're moving about on a dinghy, this is probably good for you. Gives you the mobility to move around. The main difference between this and the last one is it's a side entry buoyancy aid. So again, what works for you, comfort, sliding it on, and just allowing that you've got the freedom of movement for the water sport of your choice. Lots of movement around the arms, high up on the chest, so you can be bent over or sat down. So it would also be quite good for kayaking and paddleboarding. If we move on to one that seems quite large for a buoyancy aid, here we've got a Jobe ski vest. Now this is made with a much softer foam. It has the same range of buoyancy but gives you a lot more movement, so whilst you're in the water trying to get up from a water ski or on a wakeboard, you'll have much less drag, and again will be much more comfortable in a sort of hunched up position before you get stood up and being pulled along. Extra clips mean that if you hit the water at speed, your buoyancy aid's not going to burst open and you're not going to lose it. And on that note, you have the next level up again, which is something called an impact vest, which is really good for towable toys. Again, if you're being towed behind a boat on an inflatable, you might be doing some high speeds, upwards of 15-20 knots, depending on how crazy your driver is. These extra clips mean that, again, should you get flipped or fall off the towable, your buoyancy aid's not going to burst open, you're not going to lose it, and then you're not going to be in the water without any sort of help to keep you floating. What a buoyancy aid won't do compared to a life jacket is they won't float you the right way up. So the buoyancy is well evenly spread around the front and back. And when we move on to life jackets, we'll see that the buoyancy there is very much on the chest, very much on the back of the head, so that should you be in the water, your airways are always being held up clear and you're able to breathe freely, you won't be face down. And that is a brief overview of buoyancy aids and what you might use them for. So as I mentioned during the buoyancy aid talk, life jackets work in a different way. When you are in the water, their primary objective is to keep your head and airways clear of the sea or the water that you're in. They do this by having a large amount of buoyancy on the chest, which goes around the back of the head to keep you floating chest up and head up. If you hit the water in a life jacket, what you'll find is they will self-right you themselves due to where this buoyancy is. So life jackets are all built to a standard. What you find is you'll need to pick based on what you're doing, be that motorboating, on a rib, sailing, whatever. If we start at the bottom, or not the bottom, the beginning, you find you get a manual life jacket. You can easily identify these by all manual life jackets have a yellow toggle. These are great for rib drivers, motorboaters, anyone that's, if they end up in the water, it's not because they're unconscious by being hit on the boom or being thrown overboard or falling off sailing yacht or something like that. So most motorboaters will tend to go for a manual life jacket. You then move up to automatic life jackets. As you can see, again, red toggle. This is how you identify an automatic life jacket. This is a basic model in as much that it doesn't have a harness attachment point, which is the next step up again in the life jacket chain. If we grab automatic life jacket with harness, see, got the red toggle, now it's an automatic. And when they mention the harness, they're talking about this point here. This gives you the ability to attach a lifeline, so that if you're moving about on a sailing yacht with jackstays, you can clip yourself in and have an added level of security, knowing that if you slip or fall, you're not going to feel immediately overboard. Safety lines come in a range of styles. You get 2-hook or 3-hook, you can get elastic or non-elastic, and they have these very secure clips that mean that you can clip onto your life jacket and then use the other end to clip onto the boat and keep yourself safe and secure. Now, life jackets are all built to a standard, so what you end up doing when you're looking at different levels is you're buying comfort and added features. So a manual life jacket will be a lot cheaper, and especially one like this because it's very basic, no frills. When you start moving up, you can see that they're lower profiles, a bit lighter, more durable materials. Just that's when you start finding out what the difference is. And that's why it's always a good idea to go into your local chandlery, be that a Force 4 or one near you, and start trying on life jackets to work out what works for you and is the best fit. So this is a Crew Saver Ergo Fit life jacket. It's one of the more high-end or expensive jackets because it's primarily designed for offshore sailing, so it has many more features that you might require, and when we set it off we'll go through those. Another thing to mention on life jackets is they all come fitted with a crutch strap, which goes from the back of the life jacket between your legs and clips into the front. This one has 2, most have 1. The idea of the crutch strap is, again, if when you hit the water and that life jacket goes off, it doesn't just shoot off the top of your head. It gives you another point that's secure and attached, as well as the adjustments on the waist and sides keeping you secure. Now, if we dig out, which we didn't, sorry. Yeah, it is that side. So, now, if we set this one off, which will go off with a loud bang and be quite shocking, we can go through some of the internal features. So, this being an offshore life jacket, it has a few extra features which you can retrofit to most other life jackets, such as a water activated light, and on the back you have a spray hood. Now, the object of the spray hood is to prevent secondary drowning. You can pull that over and hook it over the bladder, and in large waters, large seas, you'll stop spray hitting you in the face, because secondary drowning is one of the biggest causes of, well, death or poor cases in rescue, despite being saved because of the amount of water you've inhaled whilst you've been splashing about in the sea. If we take a minute to look at the rearming or the cylinder, this is the cylinder that had the gas and air in it, and this bit on the bottom is the part that, should I fall in the water, activates the life jacket. The way that happens is it gets very wet, there's a small pill in there that dissolves, and that releases a spring that fires up into the life jacket, causing the gas to inflate and end up in the position I'm in now. 90% of life jackets, or automatic life jackets, you'll find on the market these days, have one of 2 rearming kits. There are older styles that we do cater for, but most of the types you'll find will be the United Moulders Mark V, this black cylinder, same as on here, or the Pro Elite, which is a slightly new modern version. If your life jacket has one of these, it must be replaced with one of these. There's different threads, you can't mistakenly put one on the other, so always open up your life jacket and check to see what your firing head is. These firing heads have a date printed on them. This one here says replaced by 2025. So again, you've got 2 options. You can either do what I've just done now, set off your life jacket and give it your own sort of mini service, or make sure it inflates, or you can generally go in and buy just the part that you need to replace. If you're concerned about your cylinder, on there is a printed net weight. You can take that off, weigh it, make sure it says the same weight. You can be safe to know that it hasn't had any leaks or any other issues. But for real peace of mind, what we do generally recommend is you get your life jacket serviced every 3 to 4 years by a professional. Make sure it's all packed nice and neatly, and then you can be safe and certain that when you're on the water, it's going to do what you want it to do. There is one final automatic style, and that's called a hammer. So if we look at this spin lock deck Vestito here, I'll try and show you without setting it off myself. The hammer style works on water pressure, and it's been designed again for primarily offshore sailing, racers, anyone that's on a very wet boat. Bowman, if you're a racer, you've got a high chance of getting lots of water over you. You've got very, very minimal chance of this accidentally going off while getting too wet. It's slightly more expensive, but again, if you are offshore, you're a racer, you know that you're on a boat that gets very wet, it is worth spending the extra money to avoid any accidents happening, such as it going off when you don't want it to. And that is the main differences between the rearming kits that you'll find in your life jacket. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you got some useful information out of this video. Happy sailing.